Hey, pilot, welcome back to Ready for Pushback. And today I have a little bit of an alumni visit from my man, Jimmy Houston. This conversation, Jimmy just finished getting his ATP check ride done, and he got a type rating at the same time in an Airbus 320. And we talk about this because it was an accelerated course. There's a lot of risk associated with this, but he spent a lot of money to do this course. It was short and it was furious, but he passed it. And so if you are a person that is trying to consider what are the extra things you can do to make yourself more enticing for an airline, being able to pass an ATP and being able to pass a type rating, like those are two of the big things you can do. However, you need to know yourself and how you study and be able to pass this thing. Because if you don't, you're going to be off the table for a long time, and no airline's going to look at you for quite a while until you can pass that and get some time between you and the check ride. And so this is literally, we talk through every day and every step. It's an hour and 15 minutes of us talking about this because it's very in depth. And I want to give you a roadmap for what it's like to go to this course, because there's nothing out there right now for that. And so if you're going to do it, or if you know somebody that's going to do it, like this is a good episode for you. And, Jimmy's amazing. He's a hard worker. He's an Army helicopter guy. He's been flying a lot, just trying to separate himself. And so this conversation is really valuable. So I hope you like it. All right. Sit back, relax. Let's get ready for pushback.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
All right, we are back again with my buddy Jimmy Houston. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Great, man. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Man, you have been busy, and we've been chatting about having this conversation, a second conversation for, I don't know, going on 2-3 months now. Why don't you catch the pilot at home up with what you have been doing since last we chatted?
Well, so firstly, the last time I was on your show, I think I was recently finished Infinity RTP program and Delta ATP CTP, and I was about 2 months out from going through an ATP/A320 type in Dallas. One thing I didn't expect from that show was the ridiculous amount of people that were going to reach out to me. I've had LinkedIn. I mean, I'm not hard to find. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm on LinkedIn, but I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I've helped a lot of people, so that was really cool. And I'm super stoked you're having me back. So thank you.
Yeah, man. And that's the best part of this show, really, is like the community of people around it. It's so fun.
Everybody's listening, man. You're like the Joe Rogan of aviation.
Not quite, but I do feel like my guests are better than his. So perfect.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I did go to that ATP Jets Dallas A320 type course back in July.
Yeah.
I finished in August. I passed.
All right.
Got my type.
Check.
And I've had a lot of opportunities since then that were directly a result of that.
Okay.
I did get a CJO with an airline, and I'm waiting to class up.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at right now.
Awesome. First off, congratulations. And I want to let's dig in deep about because you did your course at Infinity. You got all your hours. You had over 1,500 hours, or did you do 750 because you were prior military? Like, are you restricted?
No, I'm over 2,500 hours.
Okay. So
but yeah, this process has been about a year I quit my job as a contractor with Lockheed Martin December of last year. So we're coming up on a year to get the job that I wanted.
That's pretty awesome. And you've got, so you did Infinity, and then you did a Delta ATP CTP course, which was probably 2 weeks.
Yep.
and it costs you about $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a great course and it's super
Worth
awesome.
it.
Yeah, for sure. For the pilot that's listening, I had the CEO of Delta Professional Services on a couple months back. Super awesome company. And then you decided to do the type. So you did the type rating and you did the ATP certification at the same time. But I want to know why you decided you needed to get that ATP, and then and why not just kind of go to a regional and wait on it or something like that?
So that's a tough question. A lot of different factors, right? So one, I'm 40, right? So having done 21 years in the military, I value the next 20 years of my chapter. And we've had the conversation before about contracts. I'm okay with a contract within reason, but some of the contracts that are out there right now are really taking advantage of people.
Yeah,
and it's changed the market.
Yeah, the training contracts with the regionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a fan. I think different people, different life choices, right? But also, no new ideas. I have a lot of mentors. I have a lot of buddies that have done this ahead of me. And, if you're out there listening, you don't have a mentor, get one.
Yeah.
If you only have one, get two. Like everybody's, one thing I've learned through this process, and I talk to my buddy G about this all the time, not one person in this journey has the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they went to the same job, they all have different timelines, your story is going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the third reason was, I think everybody thinks that you hit your unrestricted ATP mins and you're like a golden egg, right? Things are going to start falling out of the sky. Everybody wants you. It's not that simple. And it became very apparent relatively quickly that I'm one of 1,000, 2,000 other people with the same qualifications. So how do I separate myself from the pack?
That's important. Let's sit on that for a second, because I was just yesterday talking to a director of hiring at a major airline, and it's the same conversation over and over, that the competitive hours have really increased over the past 24 months. And because of that, the majors have a bucket of people that they can select from that are of a higher time category, right? It's an experience thing. Yeah. 'Cause you got more hours, but they're having a higher pick, right? And then that trickles down to everywhere else. So 1,500 hours used to be enough to get you to a ULCC or get you to a regional. And, it depends. The answer is it depends, because if you are the person, he with the most quals wins, and that's where you've got to find yourself, right? So
are you a 1,500-hour jet pilot from the Air Force? You might have an easier way,
Yeah, no, it's true. And we're both helicopter guys, and I don't just think about that, but I also think about the civilian pilot that's listening as well, the guy or gal that's been going through the CFI route and is really trying to bang out as many hours. Like, you just got to keep cranking. You can't stop.
Right. And you got to, like my buddy G says this every day, and I agree with him. How do you compare to a 121 Spirit pilot who just hit the market as an FO? And that's how you got to think about your resume.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. There are 330 something more FOs on the market now with 321 type ratings and hours to boot and ATPs and all the things. And so, God bless them, because I do a lot, as much as I can, to help them, but also for the people that aren't in that position, like, they're having to compete, and that's a tricky place to be, right?
When we talked the last time, it was apparent to me that ATP was kind of becoming the floor of the industry, like the minimum standard to be competitive if you're trying to not go to a regional or hit the majors. And I would say now, it's even high. One thing about this industry is the goalposts continuously move.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're at a point now where this type, where I was super stoked on it in July, now I feel like it's just barely adequate to get me in a conversation. And if you look at a lot of the airlines right now, they're going back to putting type preferred on their website.
Yeah.
I mean, one that comes to mind, Global X, just put A320 type on their hiring requirements. And, there's speculation on how is this industry going to look 6 months from now. And we've seen, it's crazy how much it changes and how fast it changes. But right now, in this current environment.
Yeah.
People are doing recurrence, training departments are like shut down to get to the line as much as possible. So it's a really tough market right now. And you got to think, what could I be doing to separate myself from the pack and continue to make myself competitive? And I don't say separate yourself from the pack in like a derogatory way, right? We're all trying to help each other.
Sure.
I feel a responsibility. I like to help people. A lot of people have helped me get to this point. And I don't think anybody does it on their own. So you got to pay back. You got to pay it back. But still, you're trying to get that job. So it's an individual sport.
It is an individual sport. I think that's a really good point. And the evolution of pilot hiring over the past 7, 8, 9 years has been very interesting because, it was very cutthroat and very selective, very few opportunities out there about a decade ago. And now, I mean, even less than a decade ago, like 6 years ago. And now we're starting, we had this huge wellspring of opportunity. And now we are slowly moving our way to a more moderated and deliberate hiring process. It's going to be plus or minus about 20% for the next 6, 7 years. And that it all depends on growth. It all depends on aircraft delivery. It all depends on retirements, all those things. But with that moderation, I think a pilot really needs to focus on what are those things. If it is an individual sport, exactly like you said, what are the things you can do to separate yourself, to make yourself stand above? And this is it. But it's also a big risk. And
it's a huge risk.
Dude, talk to me about the experience of going into this, because tell me about how much jet time did you already have?
Zero.
How much time?
Now I had all turbine time from helos, but you might as well throw that in the trash in this world.
Helicopter time, and you had how much multi-engine propeller time did you have?
I had 26 actual and the 11.3 class D that you get at Delta level D. So I was minimum time guy.
Yep.
Like at the floor of, at that time, what anybody would even talk to.
Okay. So zero experience, and now you have to go learn an Airbus A320, which is one of the most technologically advanced airplanes in the world. So talk to me.
So I had the benefit. Let me set this up. So when I finished the course, my buddy Sam, we used to fly 58s together a long time. He's like, how did you pass a 121 abbreviated type in 11 days with no 121 experience? And I said, well, I'm too stupid to quit. And I've got a lot of people that have went ahead of me and did this. And so I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I still didn't know what I was getting into. I have a lot of friends that went ahead of me that I think are smarter than me that were like, dude, this is a hard course. Like, you need to take it seriously. So I was a little scared. And having done it, I would easily say, and my background, hardest aviation course I've ever done.
You really?
Bar none.
Really?
And I say that because there's this tendency for people to join the crowd. And I don't want people to join the crowd because they listen to me on this podcast and think, I'm going to go do what Jimmy did. Like, there's serious pros and serious cons, right? And the evaluator, my evaluator, my stick buddy. And so we talked last time, my buddy G and I have done this whole process together, right? We did the same guy went to ATP jets with me. The day of our evaluation, our check airman for our ATP and A320 type was a senior American Airlines check airman.
Yeah, let's go.
And he said to us, this is my last opportunity to prevent you from flying my family.
Oh, geez.
That's how he started the event. So you have to be on that level. And then he wasn't being mean. He was just saying, like, I take this eval very seriously. It's all business after this point. And that's just how you have to think. Like, I will say this, and then we can back up.
Yeah.
Every instructor there, they were either Spirit captains, American captains, retired Delta captains. They are, if you ever thought about military flight school, you get these really experienced guys that retire and they come back and they teach as civilians. It's kind of how that place is with a few guys that are still doing the job. Phenomenal.
Yeah. These
unbelievable instructors. They want you to succeed. They're not going to put you up for the eval if they don't think you're ready. So I'm not trying to scare anybody, but if you fail that eval in this current market, you're off the list for 2 years.
Yeah, it's true. Also, I would say there are two types of people that go and instruct there. There's the ones that just like love teaching. And there are the other ones that love saving for retirement because they're on their third ex-wife. So those are your left and right limits of what you get. Yeah. And if you're lucky, you'll get those people that love to teach and they're going to hook you up and with all the knowledge that you need.
My experience there was instructor-wise 100% positive. I don't have anything bad. Now, you know how it is. You've been through military flight school and you've been through all the airlines you've worked for. Personality-wise, you're always going to have an instructor that you think is tough or you can't communicate with. That's just being an adult.
Yeah.
But professional-wise, and they got the right people there.
Yeah, for sure. So walk me through the process, right? First off, how much did it cost?
Specifics, I think the base course is like 9,000 something, so 10 grand.
Oof.
It's expensive.
Ooh, that's a lot of YouTube views.
Yeah, but if you think about it, right, you got to look what you're getting for 10 grand. If you go do the base, there's a lot of different routes to get your ATP, right? You can go the Sanders route. You can go your Podunk Airport nearby and fly a multi that may or may not work. You can go fly expensive multis, but you come out of that 10 grand with, I had 30 something A320 sim time hours, which I get it. They're not real jet time, but it's still FAA level D jet time.
Yeah. It's in your logbook.
You get an ATP and you got a type rating. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's the best bang for the buck thing out there, especially if you're trying to do it quickly. I have a family. I don't want to be sitting here and employed for long. And the number one thing that I have gotten feedback on in all the interviews I've done, talking to recruiters, and this is the reality of it, they all view us as training risks.
Sure.
Even if you've never failed anything in your life, if you're a helicopter pilot, male, female, jet, whatever, if you're a military pilot and you're going to the airline world where they have grown up from CFI all the way to major captain, they look at you as someone trying to enter their world and you're a risk. And then if you just look at the hard numbers, we do fail. Like helicopter pilots struggle in school, especially in their initial AQPs, or if a company doesn't have an AQP.
Yeah. 121 training is I completely agree with you. And I have been lucky enough. I just work my ass off. I go into flight
school
mode.
Too stupid to quit.
Yeah. Flight school mode to me is like, I might as well be in solitary confinement because I'm not doing anything. I'm focused. I'm completely 110%. And I'm also covered in stress and anxiety. So.
Oh yeah. I'm the same way. And getting into the course. So when you sign up to the course, they're going to send you a packet. And I think all type courses are basically the same.
Okay.
You're going to get a paper tiger, which if you don't know what a paper tiger is and you're watching on YouTube, just look behind me.
Oh yeah. Look at you.
Poster.
It's a poster with all the switches on the cockpit. And so
yeah. And you're going to get a sim study guide, which is going to lay out the standards of the school and what they expect from you for maneuvers and flows and profiles. You're going to get EPs and limits, just like the military. Excuse me. And you're going to get an oral study guide, which is something that was new to me. The eval is not a secret. It's not like you're getting that crusty old warrant officer from Vietnam who's like, I'm going to just stack every instrument pub I can on the table and we're going to spend 4 hours talking. They give you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And so that was an AQP style.
That's kind of how they set it up.
Okay. Yeah.
And, luckily I've had friends that have went through ahead of me. And the general consensus is you need to be in ATP mode 30 days out.
Okay. So what do you do in 30 days out? Talk to me about, let's make this interview a discussion to the pilot that's going to do this. Like tell that guy or gal what to do.
The whole reason I wanted to do this show, because I have been getting blown up with texts and phone calls about
calling
what to expect.
Jimmy.
Yeah. No, it's fine, dude. I love helping people. Hit me up.
Yeah.
It's fine. But people want to know, right? This is definitely, it's not a secret that people know the course is out there. So 30 days out, I started hanging my paper tigers up and I started kind of looking through everything and just kind of getting familiar with stuff. Nothing like, not a deep dive, but what is this sim guide? What is this? You got to think of your sim guide as your Bible. Everything comes from that sim guide. And you got to think of your cockpit posters as, I need to know exactly everything where it's at without even thinking twice about it. It needs to be muscle memory. So for me, I built a little fake A320 cockpit out of PVC pipe. I put the center console where it would be. I put an overhead console because primacy, right?
Listen, dude. For those of you that don't know Jimmy and can't see the DeLorean on his shirt, like this guy builds everything. And like, you know what I did? I like stuck it on the wall. The end. Like you built an entire cockpit setup. Unbelievable, dude. Keep going. Keep going.
So anyways, I built a little setup like that, and I wasn't really super serious about it till I started watching One Step Prep videos, which is a pay for prep service on A320 systems. A lot of it's open source. You can find it on YouTube. You probably have a friend that's already paid for it. I'm not telling you not to support the company, but it's out there. And then the big thing that they're going to send you is computer-based training. And I know everybody does computer-based training. And it's basically 55 hours of training that's timed. You're not going to be able to rush through it. And you have to think about it as when you go to a type course that's not abbreviated, it's mostly system school, right? When you do an abbreviated type like this, they're expecting you to teach yourself all that stuff. So when you show up, you need to know all the systems. You need to know the cockpit. You need to know everything. Mm-hmm. So I would watch One Step Prep, drinking a coffee, not really paying attention. Then I would do the computer-based training. Then I would go back and watch One Step Prep. And that's kind of how it went every day. I would try to do 3-4 hours a day. And then when I got to 2 weeks out, I got super serious. I'd wake up in the morning, hammer systems all day. I had wrote notes on stuff that I didn't really understand. And when you get into the A320, pneumatics can get confusing, hydraulics, like there's just, there's a lot.
You can't live your life in normal law, my man.
No, yeah. There's a whole other, I didn't even talk about that. You're going to get law sheets, which if you don't know what laws are and you go on A320, you will soon.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say is I wish that I had gotten serious 30 days out.
Oh, I see.
So I did 30 days, kind of half stepped in. And then for 14 days, I was super serious. Mm-hmm. Back that up.
So maybe
be in that mentality for 30 days.
Maybe 60 days, half step it, 30 days, crush.
Yeah.
All right.
And, some people are smarter, some people aren't. But
I
don't consider myself dumb.
But you can't.
But I got to work hard.
You can't leave things. You can't risk anything. You can't leave anything on the table. Just like preparing for an interview or any of that stuff.
100%. Mm-hmm. Individual sport, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know the switches and stuff, and you get a stick buddy that does, they're going to immediately think you're fireable on day one.
Yeah.
Right?
When I did my study, I got hired. But the first 320 I flew was at Frontier, and that was, that was some really good training. They did a really great job. Their instructors were awesome. But there's an app that I have that's like an A320 app that has the layout of the entire cockpit, and it's all the lights and switches, and you tap one and it tells you.
I have the same app.
Yeah, it's a great app. It was expensive. For me, it's
like $40 or something. It's on iPad.
It's so expensive in my mind, but
it's great though. You can be in a car and just look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I will say this. I recommend if you're going to do a course like this and you have a buddy that's willing to do it with you, get a stick buddy that's going to go to the course with you, because then you can train together before you ever get there and you're stacked for success.
Did you do that?
Yeah. My buddy G, same guy I went to Infinity with, we went to the course together and about a week out.
And you guys were sim partners together too. You got to be like stick together the whole way.
ATP wasn't going to allow that, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So a week out from going to the course, you have to, I switched from like individual study to I have to start working with G, right? Mm-hmm. And we met at a library that I live way out. He lives way out. We met at a library and we would literally hammer cockpit switches and flows 3 to 5 hours a day for 7 days. So by the time we got there, I knew he knew. And when you're doing that, you can't. So they're going to say you're being evaluated as a captain, right? But you have to be a good FO for your buddy when he's being evaluated or she's being evaluated as a captain. So you got to know both sides. So when you're studying this stuff, you can't study it from the perspective of what does the captain do. You got to switch sides, do the FO stuff, switch sides, do the captain stuff, different flows.
But your check
And we
ride
just
is in
would do that.
your check ride's in the left seat.
It is.
That is so interesting. So anybody that's gone through a 121 course at an airline knows that they are just sitting in the right seat. You kind of get to study 50%, I guess, because
but that should tell you the difficulty of this course. You're basically challenging a jet as a pilot in command in 11 days.
Damn, dude, that's a lot.
It's tough. First time in my life where I was more nervous about my buddy's eval than my own.
Oh.
Not to say that I thought I was going to pass it or anything, but I went first. I passed. You got about like a 5-minute break. And I had so much anxiety that I was going to do something as an FO that made him fail his ride.
Man, that's a lot.
If you're a military pilot, you're used to do-overs. Mm-hmm. And you're used to it being an individual eval. And you have to kind of switch mentalities now. It's a cockpit. You either pass or fail together.
That's right.
So you can affect somebody's future in a significant way.
Man, that's a lot to carry.
Yeah. So that's just the mentality. You're not preparing for yourself. You're preparing for the cockpit.
Yeah.
And all those people that eventually are going to be behind you.
Yeah.
It's not,
So how was it different when you and G started meeting at the library, right? First off, probably everybody thought you were weirdos.
Oh, yeah. They thought we were carrying in pipe bombs or something when we carried all these PVC pipes.
Oh, you brought the pipes with you?
Oh, yeah. We did the whole thing. We would reserve a room and set the cockpit up. We had our laptops so we could check the computer classes, and it was a whole thing.
That's amazing. Good job. I can't believe you did that. That's awesome. I'd love to have a picture of that. Okay. So you really just kind of made your own little simulator in this reserved room in the library, and you were doing that 5 days a week, 7 days a week. What?
I think it was 5 days. Like we did Monday through Friday. Okay. Basically.
Then you go to class, but then it's a period of time, and then you end up back in the sim. Do you feel like you had this dance, this flow with each other that you were able to carry over from the library into the simulator?
100%. And you're going to still not be right? Because the instructors, you're studying this stuff having no experience. So when you do it the first time, the instructor's going to be like, no, don't do that, or do this, or this flow doesn't have this switch in it, but you really should be doing this switch anyway, And if you show up to that, there is no time once you're there to learn the cockpit. Mm-hmm. There's zero. So on day one, if you're not able to go through before start, all the switches and everything on day one, you're behind. And I don't know that you're going to be able to catch up. You got to have the cockpit memorized, like zero excuse when you show up.
Yeah. So you show up, you go down to Dallas, and you go to this classroom. How many people are there? What are their backgrounds? Okay. What's it like?
All right. So let me look at my notes here. I want to give you guys accurate information.
We got notes, y'all.
So it's an 11-day course.
11
and
days.
Your day 1 through 3, you're not in the sims. Day 1 is a free day. So I recommend travel out there, get your hotel check-in, do an early check-in, go to Walmart, get all your food that you want because you're not going to have time to eat. You're going to want granola bars and all that kind of stuff. All you do on day 1 is you meet them, you pay the bill because it's a business. That's what they care about. They give you an updated packet of information, which I'm here to tell you, whatever sim guide you get in the mail before you go to that course, it's going to be different when you get there. So that's something that gets updated often. Oh, wow. So just expect that you're going to have changes, which is why it's critical that you have a base knowledge before you get there. And then you're only there about an hour. Here's all your updated pubs. Do you guys have any questions? Did you ruin your paper tiger? Is there anything we can do for you? Here's a free pen. Here's a free bag. Whatever.
That'll be $11,000.
And then they release you. Yeah, $10,000 bag that says ATP on it. They tell you ahead of time, like your price of entry is you have to pass a systems test, right? So you're preparing for, along with doing your flows and everything, you're studying the systems oral guide so that when you get there, you can take a systems test. It's a 50-question test And they give you, it's kind of like Shepherd Air. They give you a bank of like 200 questions. So all you got to do is hammer 200 questions. There's no excuse to fail that.
Are you a no card guy?
I'm a dry erase board guy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a no card guy.
So the first thing you do, day 2, you show up. You actually now have real instructors for your course there. They introduce them to you, and you're going to get a test. And they're going to sit there and drink coffee and judge you the whole time you're taking the test. And then you leave, and then they grade the test, and everybody passes it. The level of prep you're doing, like don't even sweat that. If you can't pass that test, just self-eliminate day 1. Don't waste the money, right? Yeah. So day 2, once you're done with the test, they have these like flight simulators set up. It's like a computer lab where they have A320 flight controls. They have McDo simulators. Super cool if you're into video games and stuff. I'm not. I don't computer, right? I have no time, and I'm in the shop building cars. I'm not on a computer playing video games.
Cars from the 80s.
Yeah. So I didn't get a lot out of that computer lab. Some of the guys that were like super into Microsoft Flight Sim got a lot out of it. And you can literally go in there anytime, 24 hours a day. You can build your instrument approaches and you can fly it just like you're going to do in the sim. So they are valuable if that's something you're into. It wasn't for me. What I will say is the McDo trainer is spot on. It's got a couple of little things, but nothing that's going to affect you actually in the aircraft. And you have to think about day 2 and day 3 as I need to have my McDo down. I need to know every page, what it does. I need to know my flight plan. You need to memorize all of it, because when you're in the jet at 250 knots in the sim, and believe me, it's so real in that sim. I was blown away. You think you're in a real jet. Feels that way. That's how I felt anyway. It's moving really fast. It moves a lot faster than Cessna. And if you're trying to remember how to do your McDo loading, you're done. So that's your objective from day 1 till 3 is to make sure that you have the McDo down before you go into the sim, and then polish up anything that you need to work on with your sim partner. Now, if you're not like me and you get assigned a new guy on day 1, first of all, you're going to be able to tell within 15 minutes if that sim partner prepared.
I'm already getting
And I know when you go to an airline or a job, you're going to get whatever sim partner you get, right? This is different. You're a customer. It's a course you're paying for. If you think your sim partner hasn't put the work in, they're going to directly affect you. Fire them.
Wow.
That's my recommendation to you. They tried to tell me I couldn't be stick buddies with my buddy. And I'm like, listen, I understand. We've been preparing for this together. Like, we're stick buddies. And so they changed it for us. And if a situation arises that a guy or gal fails and drops out, you don't have to worry about that, because they're going to give you a seat fill of a real instructor. And if you get a seat fill, that instructor is going to be perfect. Yeah. They're going to do the FO job 100%. So you don't have to stress out about that. But those first 3 days, if you got a stick buddy that you've never met before, as soon as you meet each other, here's my information, exchange phone numbers. Let's meet back at the hotel. We got to start hammering flows. Because even if you've memorized that stuff on your own, you got to learn how to communicate with that person. You got to get to know them, and you're going to have to work together. So you have to put all that time in that first 3 days, so that the first time you go into the sim, because let's face it, that sim's costing you about $2,500
each one.
Do you want to waste the flight time in there, on stuff that you could have already known?
Man, if you have the opportunity to convince some other person to join you to be your stick buddy, that is a game changer. It's total, because getting to know somebody in 72 hours to put 10K on the table and or a failure on the table, which is way worse than 10K.
High risk,
baby. That's it.
There's a lot of high risk here. If I haven't said that, there's a lot of high risk in this course.
Yeah. All right. So how many people were in your course when you started?
Now, I know Frontier and a few other airlines had been sending helicopters, and CFI people, non-type people had been sending them to this course. But during the time that I went, it was kind of like when the Boeing stuff was happening, and airlines stopped sending people there. So my class was all self-funded people. There was nobody there that was sent by a job. And the makeup was basically 4 mil, including me and my stick buddy. We had one 1,500-hour CFI type person, and we had one corporate jet 135 guy. And I'm not going to use names or anything, because we're going to talk about some stuff. But so basically 4 mil, one 1,500-hour young dude, and then one older civilian that had been in the corporate jet world his whole life.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way so you guys know. One of the military guys showed up and got kicked out of the course on day 2.
Kicked out.
Didn't do any of the prereq training, didn't study anything, didn't do any of the computer-based stuff. It's all tracked, and it has to be because they're FAA requirements for an ATP.
Yeah, didn't do the computer stuff. That's wild.
No, and what he said to the guy running, because there's a senior check pilot there just like there is everywhere else. He said, I didn't know I had to do that. Now, it infuriated me, and it should infuriate you if you're one of us trying to do this, because do you think that instructor is going to forget that this senior helicopter dude showed up and said, I didn't know I had to do that? It makes our entire group of guys and gals look like idiots.
It's tough.
It's tough. So he comes in and he apologizes to our class. He said, we had to let this guy go, and I feel really bad about it. And I'm like, don't feel bad. Doesn't deserve to be here. Doesn't represent me. Doesn't represent him. That's an individual failure. And that was it. Nobody talked about him again.
Yeah.
But here's the ramifications of that. So now his stick buddy, who day 1 is gone. You're on day 2. You're halfway through day 2. You just lost the guy that you were preparing with, and now you get stuck into another butt. So what they did was my stick buddy and I stayed together, and then they took the other 3 students and put them all together. So now you have to do a whole extra 2 hours of sim time, 3 people in one sim. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so that's where I get back to. You are affecting other people. You can't think about this. You can't be selfish. You can't think about it as not my problem. Like, you get kicked out or fail, that person next to you's chances of success have just drastically been reduced.
Yeah.
And if that's who you are, maybe not the right job for you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
show up prepared.
They gave them the choice. They said, listen, are you guys comfortable with this? And they said yes. And about 3 days later, they weren't comfortable with it anymore.
I bet.
And so the second person that we lost was the 1500 CFI type. The 1500 CFI type has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with individual preparation. This individual showed up, again, really didn't study anything before they got there, and I'm going to quote this. They've got 10,000 reasons not to fail us, is what I heard this individual say. Again, if that's your mindset, you're wrong.
Yeah.
They will take your money. They will fail you. And because, again, these people are active airline captains. They're thinking about you as people that they have to fly with. And the FAA, this is an FAA course that is closely monitored by the FAA. And the ATP is at a much higher level of monitoring than private pilot.
Yeah. Did that person participate in the check ride, or did that person
no,
kind of
they
wash
got
out?
Removed on Sim 3 out of 6.
Okay. Well, at least I didn't make it to the check ride.
No, and let's back up a little bit. So we're back to day 3. You do the McDo practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Day 4 is going to be your first sim day. Day 4 through 6, sims 1 through 3, each day is new information. So it's coming at you fast. You don't have a lot of time to prepare for the next day. Day 7, your sim 4 is basically a pre-check that the instructors are going to evaluate you to see if you're ready to move on. Day 8, sim 5 is another pre-check, and it's really your last sim because your sim 6 is your LOFT. And if you don't know what a LOFT is, FAA requirement, you have to basically do a flight like you're really at an airport in a jet with an airline, and you're doing a leg somewhere, and it's a required thing from the FAA. Now, if you get lucky and you get all your LOFT stuff accomplished, that instructor may do some, hey, what maneuvers did you struggle on that you want to practice for your eval? And then they'll let you do a couple of those. But you can't count on that sim 6 as practice time. So you really have 5 sims to get ready for your eval. I just want to say this because I want you guys, some of you are going to go through this course and you're going to feel this way, and I want you to know that it's normal. So this is the notes I wrote down. Sim 1, I'm really stupid. Sim 2, I am really, really stupid.
Oh, buddy.
Sim 3, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Looking in the mirror, wow, I'm really struggling. I've never failed a course. I've had a successful career, and I was really doing some self-evaluation.
I know how that feels.
By Sim 4, hey, it's starting to come together. I think I can do this. Sim 5, well, that instructor just crushed me.
Yeah.
Wasn't as good as I thought I was. And then Sim 6, literally the day before my eval, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Okay, good. Man.
So it's an emotional roller coaster. You're going to feel it. Everybody I've talked to that's done the course has felt the same way. It's not an individual. It's not just me. You're going to feel that way too. And it's normal.
Yeah.
You just got to believe in yourself and put the work in.
That's right. And I would say we have a tendency to be very hard on ourselves. I especially do. And that's especially at the end of a sequence when you're coming up on a check ride and you miss that, or you miss this, or you miss this other thing. And you're like, oh man, I should know that. It's easy to not feel like you can do it. So,
and I will say this, the instructors are professionals. They're awesome. And, my buddy and I would joke with him every day, like, hey, if we're not going to pass this eval, please don't put us up for it. I will gladly pull the credit card out and do an extra sim. And that's something I want to stress, because that happened to the corporate jet guy. He got to Sim 4. The instructors are like, man, it's 50-50. We think you're going to be okay, but if you're not confident, we recommend you do another sim. And he did it. He said, okay, let's do another sim. So he didn't take his eval on the same day as I did. He took it the next day, but he passed. And he said afterwards that he probably would have passed the first time, but was it worth risking a 2-year blacklist in the market?
Yeah.
And having that failure on your record permanently. So what I would say is, you're not hired by an airline right now. You're a paying customer. If you're not ready for the eval, don't take it.
Yeah.
That is my number one recommendation. You get to Sim 6 and you don't think you're going to pass that eval, pay for another sim. Put the credit card on the table. I know everyone's in different financial situations. Listen, everybody's sacrificing for this job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put the money on the table, worry about it later. I just want to stress, if you fail that ride, it is a big deal.
It is a big,
right now.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal.
So ultimately, out of our 6-person class, 3 people checked on check day and passed. A 4th checked a day after with an extra sim and passed. And then 2 dropped. And the CFI was dropped because the instructor said, hey, you're not adequately prepared for this course. We recommend that you do it again and come back when you're more prepared. And I will tell you, like, ATP advertises like 97% pass rate. That's true. But what they're not telling you is the amount of people who get kicked out of the course before they go to the eval, because these instructors want to see you succeed and they understand the weight of that eval. So they're there for you. I never felt with any of those guys that they were there because they wanted to buy another Porsche. I'm sure they're making good money and they probably have another Porsche, especially if they're a Delta pilot. They probably got 2 on order,
Or they got 5 kids.
Yeah. So, but they genuinely cared about you. They wanted you to succeed. I mean, they'd see us in the hallways just crushed and they'd be like, you're fine. You guys are doing good. Keep it up.
Yeah.
So they were us at one point and they haven't forgotten about that. And that was my biggest takeaway. They were phenomenal instructors. They want you to succeed. But I think it's important too to talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about the schedule, like what your day looks like.
Yeah, that's great.
So I wrote this down. Now everybody's going to get a different sim block. So you might have a late sim, you might have an early sim. My buddy and I lucked out. We had a 10:30 sim, which is like perfect.
10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So this is how our schedule went. 6 a.m. wake up, 7:45 meet at the sim building, which you're going to have to drive to, and cram before the sim. 9:30, instructors show up because they're required to do a 1-hour pre-brief for the sim, which is pretty standard, I think. 10:30 to 10:45, you get at some point in there, you get in the box. Whoever goes first, which they're going to leave that up to you. And what they're going to say is, we recommend whoever goes first stays in that orientation for the course.
Oh.
So that you guys get used to the flow. So you have to talk to your stick buddy and decide who's going to go first every day. I would recommend, if one of you is stronger than the other, consider that and maybe have that person go first. That's what they told us. I don't think that I was any stronger than my stick buddy, but I ended up being the guy that went first. You do the 2 hours, which they have a lot of maneuvers they have to do. There's really not much room for fluff. They may let you redo 1 maneuver, maybe 2. But if you're really struggling, especially pushing back from the gate, which let's hit on that. The first time you push back from the gate, it's going to take you 45 minutes. They want you to be under 25. And even with all the prep work that G and I did, guess what? Took us 45 minutes. So imagine if you didn't do that prep work, right? The more time it takes you to get back from the gate, the less time you have in the air. And by the time you get to the eval, the gate portion getting to the runway should be easy. Check the block. What you're really worried about is flying. So you don't want to sacrifice time on the ground when you could be doing, if it takes you 45 minutes every day and now you maybe don't have time to do do-overs on a failed maneuver. So think about that. So 10:30, we go on the sim, 2 hours. We get out, we get about a 5 to 10 minute break. They have coffee, they have all that kind of stuff. And then you swap and your stick buddy that was the FO becomes the captain. And then you become the FO. And you go right back into it because these sims are booked up by airlines. It's not just ATP using them. Everybody's using these sims. You don't know who you're passing in those hallways, so be a professional because there's people from everywhere in there.
For sure. That is gold right there.
Yeah. And you've probably seen it. I've seen it. I've seen people. I already know people that have lost jobs for that.
Yeah.
So
listen all the time. You'd be surprised who's walking through those halls.
And what's funny? You always talk about how to dress for an interview and stuff. And I'm like, why is he always talking about this? It seems like common sense to me.
All the time.
It's not common sense. You should be in a different outfit every day, not the same outfit you wore the day before. It should be business casual and you should look like a professional.
That's
if no one's told you that, there's your advice.
Did you shave your beard?
Oh, yeah. This is off time, Jimmy.
Okay.
I probably should have shaved for you too, but I didn't.
Yeah, whatever. But yes, let's sit on that for a second. You need some nice shoes that are not tennis shoes. You need some kind of pants that fit you well. If you don't have clothes, if you're getting fat like me, like go to TJ Maxx or Ross and get yourself something. Don't get a braided belt and just wear some kind of shirt. If you're going to wear one of those weird, real thin golf shirts, I highly recommend putting an undershirt under it because it's weird.
Yeah. And this is my mentality with it. Before I went to Delta, my mentality is everybody that you're around could possibly affect your future. You don't ever know who you're going to run into or what company they're going to work at. So I bought 8 outfits right out of the gate.
Wow.
I planned each day of the week. I'm regimented like that. I'm a creature of habit.
I can see that.
And so I wore the same outfits to Delta CTP that I wore to the ATP Jets. Who cares?
Yeah.
No one's going to be like, oh, I saw him wear that blue shirt 4 months ago.
No, but you certainly need to have enough clothes you don't wear the same thing every day. It starts to smell. It looks dingy. It's a weird thing. And the instructors can be like, what's up with this guy or gal?
I bring it up because there was someone in our class that wore the same outfit for 5 days.
Wow. Well,
so,
hey man.
So you get out of the sim at about 2:45 to 3:45, depending if there's nobody booked after you, the instructors may go long.
Oh.
It's kind of on them. They get about an hour of fluff time and you're going to debrief. And by the time you get to that point, you're smoked.
Yeah.
You just did a lot of stuff. You got told how stupid you were and you're super stressed out about the next day. So what we would do is we would just jump into one car, go get dinner somewhere, shut down for an hour, just get dinner, get a good meal. Cause that's probably the only meal you're going to get that's hot and full during the day. Whatever your sim time is, you're probably going to get one meal that you have time to do. So we went and did dinner and then we would immediately go back to the ATP facility where they had coffee and they had cockpit layout. They have all the stuff for you to use. I recommend bringing your own for your hotel, like your own cockpit posters, or we would go back to one of our hotel rooms and we would put in a solid from 5 till 8:30. So 3.5 hours of studying time. And we would spend the first half of our studying time going over everything we messed up that day. And that's critical because the next day it's going to be all new information. So you don't really have time to like go backwards. If you start to get behind, it becomes a problem. So that study time at night becomes, we got to hammer the stuff we messed up today so that we don't mess it up tomorrow. It's okay to make mistakes, but you don't want to make the same mistakes, right? Continuously. But you also have to kind of look at the next day's stuff. You got to look at the sim profile because you're going to know what you're doing. And you want to go through each one of those maneuvers at least once. So it's not Greek to you. because they're going to expect you to show up every day knowing what you're supposed to do. They shouldn't have to tell you, hey, we need you to do this maneuver. And they shouldn't have to tell you, hey, in the sim guide, are you aware of the calls you're supposed to make? That's expected of you. And it's an abbreviated type. It's expected for you to self-learn. So 8:30 p.m., stick buddy would leave. 8:30 to 11 o'clock, that's self-study time / gym time. And that's when you're looking at world guide, EPs and limits, stuff that you're going to get asked on your check ride. I will say that the first few days I was there, I neglected exercise. Man, don't do that.
Yeah, man.
It's so critical because you're going to feel so much pressure. And I'm like you, I'm self-induced. I expect myself to do well. And when I don't need somebody else to tell me I didn't do good. You have to have an outlet, go swim in the pool, go down to the hotel gym, go for a walk. And, take your EPs and limits with you, walk on the treadmill and look at them while you're walking on the treadmill. You have to decompress, at least for me. I neglected that the first half of the course, I would say. And then it got to a point where I was like, I need to go do something. And then immediately felt better. So my recommendation would be keep your exercise routine going. It'll help you out. And I'm old and I like my sleep. So as stick buddies, we both kind of said, listen, we need to set 7 hours as a hard time. 7 hours between when you go to bed and the alarm goes off. It might take you 30 minutes to fall asleep or whatever. But because if you don't get good sleep, it's going to wear on you. By the end of the course, you're not going to be thinking clearly. Course is already going to wear on you. So eat good, sleep, exercise. Keys to success.
Literally, yeah.
But you can see there, our day was from 6 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, every day for 11 days straight.
Yeah. But once you get into that routine, it starts to go, it's
your life.
Yeah. It just plugs along. What is the hardest maneuver in the Airbus?
Trying to remember which one I struggle with the most. So there's 3 different types of stalls they're going to give you. And one of the stalls I kept messing up. Oh, you know what? No, I know. The toughest maneuver, right? Single engine failure on approach to a go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds easy, right? Oh, whatever. I just ram the throttle in. Also, don't say throttle.
Yeah.
I got yelled at a lot for saying throttle. But again, not being a jet guy, I don't understand how much power these things have. And let me tell you, one engine on an Airbus, if you put that thing to max, it's crazy. I mean, it pushes it like a rocket ship straight up in the air. So it becomes hard to control and it climbs so fast. You have gates you have to hit per altitude and time to successfully recover that maneuver. And oh, by the way, you're in a real airspace environment. You're on ATC control and you're doing a missed approach. So you have all the instrument stuff to factor into that as well. So that maneuver becomes very fast and both people in the cockpit have jobs to do and they have to be performing. That to me is the one that I would say probably stressed me out the most on the eval.
Yeah. Single engine go arounds, very stressful.
Yeah. And I think that's probably consistent for whatever airframe you fly, right?
Yeah, it is. The more reps you get, the more you get used to it. And that's one advantage that you did not have in this course. Yeah. And so that's tricky. All right. So when you went and did your eval, was there anything unexpected? Like what was the pacing? Were you ready for it? What happened?
So the beauty of the course is, I don't know if all courses are like this, but they lay it out on day one. They tell you like, these are the maneuvers we have to do per the FAA. These are the maneuvers you have to do to get a PIC type in an Airbus with limitations. And they write it out on the board. You know exactly, each evaluator is different. So you may get a little bit different sequence, but you know what maneuvers are going to be evaluated. And I have it written down right here if you'd like to hear them.
Let's hear it.
So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start at the gate with a cold, dark aircraft. And he's going to say, go. And if you've never had this is my first 121 eval experience, obviously, they get in the back. And once they're back there, execute. And they don't talk unless they will tell you if you failed. And they'll ask you if you want to start again or if you want to discontinue, all that kind of stuff. But they're only going to talk when they have to give you guidance that applies to the eval. So it's a quiet cockpit, which for some people can be weird, right?
Stressful.
They're gonna drop the viz, so it's going to be a tough taxi environment because you're not going to be able to see very far. So you got to pay attention to markings and all that kind of stuff, ATC instructions. You're going to get some kind of a malfunction on push and start. You're either going to have an engine not start, or senior flight attendant's going to say something's going to happen that you have to work through as a crew. And you got to think about, checklists. Who do I have to call? Maintenance. What paperwork do I have to do? We've all done military sims, right? We're like, oh, I'm not going to do fake ATC, and that's not how this goes. You're actually putting frequencies in the right radio. You're talking on the right radios. They're monitoring. They can see in the back which radio you're talking on. You're really in an aircraft. That's how you have to think about it. And you're really talking to ATC. So you're going to taxi out. You're going to do an RTO.
Rejected takeoff.
Sorry, yes. Rejected takeoff. You're going to do a takeoff, a standard instrument departure, and you're going to go right into your basic FAA stuff. You got to do steep turns and stalls for your ATP. That has nothing to do with the jet. It's ATP requirements. First approach is going to be an RNAV. And again, I'm saying this as this was my sequence. It might not be yours.
Yeah.
First approach is going to be an RNAV. You're going to hand fly it from the final approach fix. And they joke as instructors that you never land on the runway and stop until the eval's over, right? You could pretty much expect that every approach is going to be messed up somehow. So you're going to go miss. Something's going to happen. You're going to execute the publish hold. Some point in the hold while you're trying to talk to ATC to come back, they're going to fail an engine on you probably, and you're going to have to relight it, and you're going to have to do all the checklists and the calls and all the stuff associated with that. Then you're going to have to go back into holding. You're going to do a localizer circle to land, which, talking about tough maneuvers, doing a circle to land approach in an Airbus, that was hard. Never done that before. I'm telling you right now, it's a lot of steps. There's a lot of steps that happen from final approach fix to I'm visual in the environment and I'm landing under visual conditions. It took several tries for us to get, like, you don't get good at that probably till right before your eval.
And you're never going to do it again.
Yeah. V1 cut. ILS, again, single engine, hand flown from the FAF, go to the mist, do another ILS coupled to land. You're going to have a no slat, no flap landing on one of those approaches that's going to be tied in with the instrument approach. And then you're going to have to taxi into park. So most of these maneuvers are actually ATP required maneuvers as far as the instrument stuff, but there is some Airbus stuff that's thrown in that you have to do to get a type rating in the Airbus. The way your eval day is going to go is start super early. I think I started at 6 a.m. Whoever goes first in the sim usually is going to go first on the oral. Your oral is about 2 hours long, 5-minute break, and then the next person's going to go on and do their oral. So between like 6 and like 10 is in the morning is your oral time. Take care of your stick buddy, right? So I knew that he was going to not have time to get food before the sim. I need to eat. I get hangry and I get dumb if I don't eat. So I jumped in the car while he was getting his eval. I drove down the road. I got some food. I brought it back. I had it for him so that he could eat when he came out. Team sport in this aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I also sat there because he did there was a break in the oral, like in the middle of the oral. They'll be like, because they know it's stressful, they'll tell you to take a 5-minute break. And, my stick buddy was in the hallway. Hey, how's it going? You're fine. Keep it up. Be confident. And I did the same thing for him. So you're getting each other through this eval. It's a long day. As soon as you're done with the oral, you're going to jump in your cars and you have to drive 15 minutes away to another facility. Again, these are sim facilities that ATP is paying to use, but other airlines are using them. You don't know who's in there or what company. Once you go over there, it's just like it has been all week. You do a pre-eval brief, pre-sim. They lay out expectations, and then our evaluator, he's told us all the maneuvers. These are all the maneuvers I have to evaluate you on. So just what I just went through with you was basically what he told us. So there's no surprises. And then he tells you, like, there's no repeats on a maneuver. Like, if you don't do the maneuver to standard, unfortunately, we're going to have to, unsat for the day kind of thing. And then they give you options. You continue the eval, you come back another day, but you're going to have to pay money for that sim. So think about that. And so then this is back to what we were talking about earlier. I evaled first, super stressful. The hardest part of the eval was keeping my nerves under check. I felt like my heart rate was up the whole time. You're going to have a maneuver. I think everybody in the class that I talked to, you're going to have a maneuver that you screw up and you just barely kept it in the margin. And it's going to like put your headspace in a place where you're like, okay, all right, I'm still here. Like if he doesn't pause the sim, you're still in it.
That's right.
That's what your mentality needs to be. As long as that sim is moving, I'm still in the game.
That's right.
So you have to be like, flush that. Don't let it affect the rest of the ride. And I say that because some people have a hard time with that. If they mess up a maneuver, it ruins them for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I did my eval, and as soon as it was over, there was no surprises. He said, "Hey, that was a successful eval. Congratulations." He shook my hand and he said, "You guys take 10 minutes." We went out and I grabbed a Snickers and a coffee, and I was like shaking. and like I said earlier, I had for about 30 seconds, I was stoked that I passed.
Yeah.
And then I immediately thought, I got to get my stick buddy through this. I can't screw up. And it becomes tough because mentally you're smoked at that point. You're more smoked than you were in the training evals because you're under an eval. It's an eval environment. It's taking more brain cells, more calories. So I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like asking him questions. I'm like, I got to not screw up being an FO. Like, official gear guy. I got to do that right. I got calls I got to make.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you, like, officially, you're not supposed to help your stick buddy. And you can't say things like, I'm going to do this for you, right? But if you're about to bust an airspeed because your gear's down and you're an FO, be a crew member, reach up and put the gear up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, be an active participant. And I will tell you that he caught stuff for me and I caught stuff for him. And I'm willing to bet if I asked you, you've had sims go just like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is part and parcel. When you guys both finished, like, I guess there's just like nothing else, and you're out of there. And now what?
Well, you're not really. It's still so you leave the sim, then you have to drive back to the ATP facility, and then you have to do all the paperwork.
Okay. Man,
it's a long day.
Yeah.
It's a 16-hour day.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
a long day, and I've never personally had an eval day be that long. I don't think.
Yeah, it's
a lot. That's why I say the sleep is important, and exercise, food, and all that kind of stuff. But they had a guy come in and talk to our class on like day 3 that had just taken the eval from the previous class. And my stick buddy and I looked at this dude and we're like, dude, he looks homeless. Like, he looks like he hasn't slept in 2 weeks. And like, what's wrong with him? Well, guess what? We look the same way by the end.
Yeah.
It's an intense course. And I had planned to immediately hit the road the next morning. I was so amped up from passing that I was on the phone. I was texting. I didn't go to bed till like 11 o'clock at night. And then I ended up sleeping in, and then I drove home. But high risk, high reward. I can tell you that for about a month, I was dead in the water. I didn't, before I did this course, I wasn't getting any emails from anybody. I was getting, hey, thanks, but we're going with a different candidate. All the stuff that everybody that's listening is getting. And I was like, man, I really hope this helps me out. I did the course, and about a week or 2 went by, and I'm like emailing my recruiters that I've kept in contact with, and I'm leads that I have. And I'm like, hey, I just wanted to update you, and I've got this, and crickets, right? And then all of a sudden opportunities started to come in. I had several different interviews, and I can say with full confidence that every single interview I had, they told me the reason I was brought there was because of my A320 type.
Yeah.
And it was specifically because of the type. They don't really care about the type. Whatever type you can get a type in a 7.3 if you want. You're going to have to go through that airlines training anyway. And it's more, they all said what we talked about earlier. You're a training risk, but you just showed us you could pass an advanced airframe and you have an ATP. So now if you got 5 guys that are all equally stacked and one dude has a type and they're all helicopter guys and gals, and that recruiter goes, well, this one went through an A320 course and paid for it himself. How does that look? That's how you have to think about it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the CJO I have currently is because I can thank this course for it. So it is high risk, high reward. But like I said before, the evaluator we had was a 35-year American check airman. And he told us, you will not get hired by our company for 2 years if you fail this eval. So it really is. I don't know that I've had an eval before that carried that kind of weight. You fail a private pilot eval or whatever. Hey, you're learning the FAA, things happen, it still hurts you, but you can recover from it. The ATP seems to me, and you would know more than me, but it seems to me to be like the gatekeeper rating for the community. That's their last time to really, are you the right fit for this job? And the FAA takes that eval extremely seriously. So do I recommend it? Yes. Would I recommend it to all of my friends? No. It's not for everybody. I think that there's nothing wrong with going to get your ATP in a multi-engine. I just think that this gives you that extra thing on your resume, and always got to be thinking about that extra thing. And it gives me some confidence. I've talked to guys that are successfully, they're out there being pilots with different companies, and every one of them has told me the same thing. The training at the airline was so much easier because I had done that ATP A320 type. You already know what to expect. And if you're lucky enough to get an A320, it's not the first time you're seeing everything. And you're going to have people in your class that have not even taken their ATP ride. They don't know what an A320 is. And then the other thing that I've been told is that if you already have your ATP and a type rating in the jet, and you maybe mess a maneuver up, that evaluator's got more flexibility to give you a mulligan than somebody that doesn't.
You're absolutely right. And I think that, you said high risk, high reward. You have to know yourself and know if you're capable of pulling it off, because like I always say, like, it's better to be ready than to get ready, because you don't have time to get ready there. You have to be ready. And that's so important. So as we close up, man, like, give me some final thoughts on some final like pieces of advice for the pilot that's chewing on this.
Well, I think if you're a pilot, you're smart, right? You've already been through a lot. you can do this. Yeah. I'm telling you, you can do it. Don't use my advice as gospel. If you're someone that has taken evals in the past and you've struggled, or maybe like I've known people like my stick buddy and I, we learned differently, right? If you're someone that like really struggles, but then after you get, a little bit extra time, like incorporate that into your studying. When I say 14 days out, I was going hard in the paint, maybe you should be 60 days out, like Nick said, going hard in the paint. I think it's possible for everyone to do this. I don't think it's the right thing for everyone to do, but I believe in you. If I can do it, I don't consider myself like, again, my whole career has been too stupid to quit, and it's worked for me. But you got to know yourself and just execute. If you're not someone that has that mentality, I'm going to pass this course because I don't want to tell my family I didn't. If you don't have that mentality, it's not the course for you.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Listen, man.
And the only other thing I'd say, and this is my being an ex-military guy, I never understood when I retired that, things were going to bother me when I saw other military people, because they're representing the brand, right? Whether you were a Navy, Air Force, Army, it doesn't matter. You served your country. The way you act affects everyone that has ever worn the uniform. And there's been nothing more infuriating and frustrating to me. I've had a joke from the start to now in my training experience where I look out and I say 50% rule. 50% of the people in this class are going to be unprofessional, not adequately prepared, and not represent the brand. So that impacts all of us, and it impacts people behind you. And I would just say, be a professional, be an ambassador for military men and women, and be proud of your service. And you should be the kind of person that when I go to this airline and they view me as a training risk, fine, view me as a training risk. I'm going to prove you wrong. And then when I'm successful, you're going to think differently of helicopter pilots or jet pilots or whatever. Be the person that changes one person's opinion about us so that more of us can succeed in the future.
And be the person that your mom thinks you are.
Yeah. If you think, like I've heard people, I'm going to bring up the ATP CTP course as an easy example. You'll hear a lot of people say, It's a waste of time, 0 brain cells required. Well, that's what's going to be if you expect it to be that way. But you should view anytime you're in any airline, schoolhouse, training environment, corporate, recruiting, anything that has to do with this career, you're being watched by somebody. If you're in that hotel lobby, you're being watched by somebody. If you're in the Mercedes van getting taken to an interview, that driver's listening to what you have to say. Okay. So just be smart and don't be in the hallway running your mouth. That's my best advice I could give you. Be professional, look professional, execute.
Execute. So, man, Jimmy, thank you for coming in. Thanks for this conversation. I thought it's just so valuable to understand what it's like to get a type rating and just the level of professionalism you have to bring to the game to make it happen. So I'm proud of you. You're awesome. You crushed it. I'm excited for you to start your new job. And dude, keep crushing, man.
Dude, I really appreciate it. I feel like alumni now. Been on the show twice.
That's great.
But no, I really hope that this helps people. I've had a lot of people ask questions about it, and I think that I want people to be successful. And again, find me on LinkedIn, hit me up on my YouTube channel. I'll be happy to help. Thanks, Nick.
All right, pilots, that's a wrap on this episode, and I know what you're thinking. You need to make yourself a little bit better. So how do you make yourself a little bit better? You tighten up your resume. So here's what I want you to do. Go over to my website, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and you can download my free resume template. It is tight, organized, and it's the perfect pilot resume. It's just something I like to do for the pilot group, and it is free to you. So go over there, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and download your free resume template. While you're over there, look at all the services that we offer. Lots of great interview prep, lots of great application review. Everything you need to be a professional pilot is right there. spitfireelite.com/podcast. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next episode.